And hello, everybody. It's Monday night, October 8th, and you are live with Sherry Shriner. If you have a question for the show tonight, you can send it to SherryTalkRadio at yahoo.com. Tonight's show should be pretty interesting because as the Lord keeps telling me things He wants me to talk about, I keep saying, no, not that, no, not that. So it should be really interesting. I just want to be His mouthpiece and say things He wants me to say. And, sometimes it just gets hard. You end up playing mom and dad or dad and daughter with the whole thing, It's just the way sometimes it goes. The job is not easy. Been looking at a lot of things lately, and I've probably spent the better half of 2 months deep inside Bible codes, day and night, almost just day and night, every day. And one of the most fascinating things is that when you get to the end, when you start seeing the end of the codes, people don't imagine there's an end, but there certainly is. And that's what I've been seeing a lot lately. The codes will go to a certain point, and you just see completion, end, and you don't know, okay, is that my end? Is that my completion date? Or is that just events in general, and after this event happens, life on earth isn't going to be as we know it anymore. We're going to be knee-deep in the tribulation, and just the time for computers and being on the internet and some resemblance of a daily life or something is just completely over. But I find it fascinating at the points where it does just completely drop off and end, where you'll just see an end clauses. And so, going to talk about that tonight. One of the things I have to do, and yes, SherryShriner.com is still down. I'm not even sure what I'm going to have to do to get that back up. The registrar is not even answering emails. Just kind of hijacking my site. I think they've gotten in some kind of trouble, and so they're just, as a company, in limbo. And so while they're in limbo, my website's in limbo. But all is not down or forgotten. SherryShriner.net is up. SherryShriner.org is up. And so they took down one, and I put two up. And if this is going to linger, I have a couple more I can put up. Reptoidagenda.com can go up, and AliensAreLiars.com can go up. And probably 10 or 20 more I can think of can go up. And so, we'll just wait and see how it goes. I don't know how much time we're looking at here, folks. Really down to the wire, especially if, I've been looking at the time dates with the code programs because what they did was these Bible code programs are based on the original Hebrew Masoretic language. But what they don't do is our years go from January to January. Their years go from September to September. And so if they're starting a new year, and Yom Kippur was just last month, we started a new year at the end of September, the codes don't change their years. They just keep going, like 2007 is from January to January, like the English calendar would do. And so I started looking at the codes a different way, because I noticed 2007, October, there just wasn't a whole lot listed. It just kind of looked like a pretty bland month, basically like last October was. But if you look at it for October 2008, being that 2008 started last month with Yom Kippur, then it gets interesting. Then things start to get interesting. And probably along the more lines of what we're seeing daily around us. And so I think that just kind of changing calendar dates around for the codes and stuff is going to help a lot, being able to see some of the things coming. But there's always the staples. There's some things that are never changing. They just become more dominant and dominant and dominant. And what that is the same thing that Iran has been claiming. Ahmadinejad, their prime minister, and someone took had a contest on one of my lists on coming up with a nickname for the guy. And somebody came up with, how'd it go? I don't even remember his name. How many brains? I can't even remember it. If somebody on my list remembers what that name was, shoot it over to him. It was a great one. But he's been talking about the coming of their Mahdi, their 12th Imam. And same thing I've been talking about for years is this coming Maitreya. And on my website, I'm looking at it, the hidden codes I posted years ago, some stuff on Maitreya, my page on Maitreya, his picture, all posted years ago. And I'm looking at it, and it's like Maitreya, the false prophet, and I'm like, no, he is the Antichrist. This Jesus Christ coming, this Sananda that looks like the Jesus, he's the second beast. And he always comes either shortly after Maitreya will to the world scene. I know the New Agers claim that they're going to come together and they'll be alongside each other, and I do believe they'll be alongside each other. But I do believe, because he's got a strong September date arrival, he's going to come during when the Christians are waiting for Jesus, the Son of God. They've all been mind-controlled and into believing that the rapture, there's going to be this huge rapture during Rosh Hashanah, which is usually typically in the third or fourth week of September of our calendar year. And so they've always, that's the strongest time I see Sananda coming, because he's going to come mimicking this Christian Jesus, this Son of God. He's going to come mimicking that. And so his arrival date's always strong for September. And this other Maitreya, this first beast, he can come any month. I mean, he's just got months all the time that are dominant for him. If one is not going to work out, he can come another one. And that's what he does, is because they're very apprehensive on when they're going to arrive. And so, yeah, I've just come to the firm belief, and not any, over one day or night, over several months, that this Maitreya coming is indeed the Antichrist. And so it's going to be interesting, because I told about a vision I had last year about Islam taking over the world and the violence and things happening, not just when they take over the world, but if the Anak were to arrive, when they arrive, just how beastly and savage they are. Just having an alien invasion here on Earth. And so we're going to have a double whammy with both Maitreya arriving and these Anak freaks arriving. But yeah, so I'm going to change my websites to this Maitreya being the actual Antichrist, and Jesus Christ coming, the Sananda. He fulfills more of the second beast role. And so I find it just more, as I see it, more and more pronounced in the codes, just so much surrounding the area of Asia. And if you're a Bible decoder and you get into Bible codes, and like I've said, that the biggest, hardest part about working codes is knowing how to analyze terms. Yeah, you can find all kinds of terms in the codes, but you have to know how they relate to each other and exactly how they're relating to each other. The word term, the term China in Bible codes, you would think, okay, that's pretty straight up, that's China. Not necessarily. If you read the Hebrew on it, it's spelling Asia. And Asia in biblical times was Iraq, Iran, Turkey. That whole area over there was Asia. It was not China as we know it today. This is like a modern day Asia. We're looking at the preliminary Asia. Back in biblical times, Asia was the Middle East area. And so that's why the term China is becoming so dominant in the codes. And I was wondering, what's going on with China? Because all of a sudden their name starts popping up in the codes all the time. And I got to looking at the lettering of it, and when you've been doing codes for a long time, you end up learning how to read Hebrew. And it's written out in Asia, and so that's why. And so you have to know how to work with terms when you're in these codes, and it just takes years and years and years of work and research and just working with them. And so it's definitely coming up, because his arrival is coming up. Another thing I find interesting is that earlier in the year, when I had made an announcement out to the Lord's people on my blog and during my radio show that here's Benny Hinn's list date for his tours this year. Let's make our presence known at all of his little meetings. Let's take some orgone there. See if we can't hinder his satanic fests all over the world.